Suddenly, the wolf elder raised his hand and began to concentrate energy on his fingertips. And just when the panicked Liu Feng was wondering what caused the saint to change his mind about killing him, the saint suddenly shot out energy. But his target wasn't Liu Feng. He was aiming at Huan, who was protected by Ying, sacrificing her life at the last moment. Liu Feng was amazed that the saint's attack was so fast that he couldn't even follow the trajectory. After finishing his work, the elder left into the portal and lastly said that this was a warning from the wolf tribe and he would want the owner of their chamber of commerce to know about it. Everyone froze in horror at what had happened, after which Liu Feng shouted at them to immediately run away from here. When they heard about it, they panicked and went to the city, not wanting to stay there any longer, because the wolf pack could still change their minds. The morning of the next day, Liu Feng was meditating in the carriage, pondering the difference between him and saint rank strength. Although the eightfold power was powerful, but it was very difficult to control, hence he decided to fix it as soon as possible. Just as suddenly a bird flew into the wagon and landed on Sophie's arm. It told her something. Liu Feng asked Sophie what was going on and if she needed help, to which she replied that something had happened in her family and therefore she had to go back, and added that she didn't need any help. Immediately after which she said goodbye to Liu Feng and immediately left. But Liu Feng grabbed her hand and asked if she really needed to leave right now, to which she replied that they would see each other soon, and kissing his forehead asked him not to forget her. Immediately after which, she fled in a flash, leaving the embarrassed Liu Feng alone. After a while, Liu Feng was meditating in the magic circle, creating a vortex. It absorbed some sort of magical energy, after which, he picked up a piece of energy and marveled at what an amazing magic it was. The white element without attribute was considered the most useless element on this earth, but for him, it was the only thing he could absorb directly. Although magic and Do Chi could also be transformed and utilized, it would require extra effort for him. Liu Feng believes that these attribute-free elements are more similar to the Yuan Qi described in Hua Xia's internal force. His meridians are different from the human meridians in this world, and the training methods advised by the Blood Wolf had no effect. Also, he can't train either magic or Do Chi, so he can only train Hua Xia, and all he knows from Hua Xia is Wind Step, Mirror Clones, Instant Step, and Death Blow. Liu Feng created a mirror clone and started training. He decided to train even more. After all, by training his abilities to perfection he would be able to become the strongest in this world. He had been training a lot with the Blood Wolf people recently, and he felt that he had already gained enough combat experience and would be able to break through soon. Therefore, he realized that he needed real fights to hone his skills. Suddenly, his clone turned into Lei Ting and called Liu Feng a pathetic trash, because the latter had never managed to keep Wan Er safe. This made Liu Feng angry and immediately chopped his clone, promising to kill Lei Ting with his own hands. At the same time, a certain man appeared not far from the Sunset Fortress, returning to the human world, whereupon he remembered the sight of those tricksters who had caused all his troubles. The woman from the memories was angry that he dared to lay his hands on the disciples of Xian Lan Academy. He vowed that he would definitely take revenge on Xian Lan Academy. 10 days later, the mercenaries still managed to get off the planes alive and reach a safe city. Xuelong grabbed Huan by his clothes and demanded that he tell the mercenary association that they had accomplished the mission, after which they could get drunk to their heart's content. After sorting out the documents, Huan told the mercenaries to follow him to the Chamber of Commerce for the bounty. Liu Feng and company were about to go to the Chamber of Commerce, when suddenly, a drunkard knew from the color of his hair that he was the right person, after which, Liu Feng sensed that someone was following him and realized that that person possessed an 8th level. Immediately afterward, the drunkard waved the bottle and suggested to Liu Feng to drink, which he refused without a second thought. But suddenly, the drunkard said that this glass of wine was left for him by Su Fei. Hearing this, Liu Feng turned around and asked the old man if he had any news about Sophie. But the man complained that he would love to tell everything, but unfortunately he was running low on booze, and Liu Feng had no choice but to agree to stay and have a few drinks with him. After drinking some alcohol, Liu Feng asked the old man how Sophie was doing now, and he slammed the glass on the table, demanding Liu Feng to be patient. After all, they had only drunk a little. After that, he asked him to forget about it, because looking at Liu Feng, he understood why Sophie was thinking about him all the time. From hearing this, Liu Feng almost spilled his drink and embarrassedly asked if Sophie really thought so much of him. And the drunkard asked Liu Feng who if not him and if he planned to be held responsible for daring to seduce her. He then revealed that at a family gathering a few days ago, Sophie had severely injured her cousin with improvised weapons, and she also announced in front of everyone that she had a lover who had dark-colored hair and was already in the young realm at level 9. Liu Feng asked if she would be punished for severely injuring her cousin, to which the drunk replied that the elders were really going to punish her, but she had a trump card in her hands that could change the whole situation. Liu Feng asked what the trump card was and the old man replied that Sophie had told them that she had found a way to repair internal injuries, after which the head of the house checked her body and was able to personally verify that she wasn't lying, immediately after which, Liu Feng remembered how he had helped her recently, and the old man asked if Liu Feng had used this method on her. Liu Feng was puzzled that his help had affected so many things, but still recognized that he had a way to heal internal injuries. Hearing this, the old woman emptied the bottle and said that she was glad that she had already become so strong, and was even able to enlist the help of a future saint. As he finished talking, he said he had something to get ready. Of course he could drink more, but he had something to do. Liu Feng asked the old man to stop and asked him where Sophie was now. He replied that she was in the city of Xinlan, the capital of the kingdom of Xinlan, because she was an important person in their family and should stay there. Lastly, he asked Liu Feng not to offend her and said that he was now gone. In the evening of the same day, the mercenaries called Liu Feng and asked why they wanted him, to which Shuelong replied that he had a big contract for him, and asked if he wanted to do it with them, making Liu Feng hesitate. Liu Feng asked what their business was and the other captains offered him to drink the good wine they had specially prepared for him, as well as eat over the conversation. Shuelong said that they were planning to merge their 3 groups when this was all over and asked Liu Feng if he wanted to join them. Liu Feng asked about it and Bao Gang explained that they were now 3 B-ranked mercenary corps and after merging, they would be able to rise to A rank, after which, Shuelong explained that currently, the leaders of the 4 A-ranked mercenary teams were known as the 4 mercenaries, and if they too became A-ranked, they would become the 8 mercenaries. Liu Feng thanked them for the invitation, but still declined their offer as he wasn't planning to change teams right now. From what they heard, the 3 captains were shocked that he had rejected the offer so easily, after which, Liu Feng asked why they needed him for a rank upgrade. After all, the Blood Wolf had said that they should be promoted, to which the latter replied that strength and name were not enough to break through to A rank. It depends on whether you mercenaries have someone behind the scenes. From what he heard, Liu Feng was amazed that even in this world, everything was done through connections. He said that all A-rank guilds had external forces. Bao Gang then said that they could rely on the forces within the mercenary guild, but because there were many factions within, they were afraid that they might choose the wrong faction. And Shuelong added that if Liu Feng joined them, no one would dare to touch them. Liu Feng asked how many factions there were in the guild now, to which Shuelong replied that there were 3 main factions in the guild at the moment, and the leaders of 2 of them had A-rank groups, the Zhangshi group and the Li Tian group, and the third one had a woman who had taken over a few days ago. Liu Feng inquired about this woman and Shuelong said that he had heard that a few days ago she had severely injured her rival and had taken his place. Yet now she was the weakest among the main forces. After all, she had no direct subordinates while the others had their own mercenary corps in their subordinates. After hearing this, Liu Feng laughed and said what a coincidence it was. And the captains asked if Liu Feng knew this woman, and he asked them to side with this woman if they trusted him. The next morning, Shuelong asked Liu Feng why he was in such a hurry to return, because he could have rested here for a few more days, to which Liu Feng replied that he had to go to Sunset Fortress, but he promised to have a drink with them as soon as he got the chance, and also advised them not to forget about yesterday's conversation. Shuelong asked Liu Feng to trust them. After all, with his almost saint rank, they would easily settle at Sophie's feet. After talking, they said goodbye and parted ways. On the way to the city, Liu Feng was hungry and therefore wondered why he hadn't come across any monsters he could hunt on the way, as he suddenly remembered something and took out the sigil he received from the Wolf Saint from his pocket. He was surprised that it was powerful enough to scare away all the monsters. After pondering this, he realized that he would have to be patient until he arrived in Sunset City, as he suddenly felt something. It seemed to him as if he felt someone's murderous aura for a moment. After that he decided to run to Sunset City as soon as possible. He hoped he could get there before lunch. As soon as he was gone, a portal opened at the place where he had been, and the Wolf King and the Elder came out of it. The Wolf King asked Uncle Bai why he didn't let her attack Liu Feng in response. Bai advised her to remember the fact that friends could be more valuable than enemies. Plus, he suspects that Liu Feng has close ties with dragons, and he can feel the dragon's breath inside his body. The Elder explained that the Wolf clan could not mess with dragons. Elder Bai told the Wolf King to go back and train if she wanted to defeat Liu Feng. In response, she promised that she wouldn't lose to him next time. As soon as the Moon Wolf King stepped into the portal, Bai wondered if Liu Feng would be able to escape, for the monsters were soon going to drown the Sunset Fortress in blood, and he also wondered how the dragons would react to his death. Whatever it was, it wouldn't be about the wolves anymore. After a while, Liu Feng still reached the gates of the Sunset Fortress. Suddenly the guards decided to stop him for an inspection. Liu Feng asked them what had happened that they had started inspections, to which the guard replied that a battle with the monsters was coming, and to prevent their spies from entering the city, the lord of the city had given them a warrant to search all those who came from outside. He then asked Liu Feng where he came from, to which Liu Feng replied that he was from the Beast Plains. Hearing this, the guard smirked and immediately called Liu Feng a spy, putting him in a stupor. Liu Feng asked how he could become a monster spy. The guard said that whether Liu Feng was a spy or not, it all depended on how smart he was, while making a gesture as if demanding a bribe. It was only at this moment that Liu Feng realized that the man just wanted money, after which the man admitted that Liu Feng wasn't an idiot after all. But suddenly to everyone, Liu Feng said that he didn't have any money on him, from which the guard became enraged and asked what he could give them besides money. To which Liu Feng replied that he could only give this fist the size of a bag of sand. Hearing this, the guard smirked and pulled out his sword, saying that since Liu Feng was resisting arrest, he must be a monster spy. Immediately after which, the guards pointed their weapons at Liu Feng, which made Liu Feng laugh, because he was being threatened by fools who didn't know the taste of death. And a whole moment later, Liu Feng knocked out the guards with spears, shocking the head guard. Just as suddenly he felt a presence behind him and rejoiced, realizing it was Commander Aho. The guard pointed his finger at Liu Feng and explained to Aho that he was a monster spy and they should capture him. But he was resisting arrest. In his mind, the guard laughed at the boy, for he could be considered a corpse now that Aho had come to them. Just as suddenly, Aho pushed the guard away and cheerfully greeted an old acquaintance. He then looked angrily at the guard and called him trash for being unable to determine who was a spy and who wasn't, and promptly dismissed him. The guard was shocked by what he heard and asked how this could have happened. For being dismissed from this position he would become just like those miserable commoners. Aho put his arm around his little brother and asked him why he was back in town so quickly. Liu Feng recalled that he had promised Aho that he would join him in battles with monsters, and that there was no way he could break his promise. Aho praised Liu Feng for being so reliable, and also said that he had heard that Liu Feng had encountered the Moon Wolf King, and therefore wanted to know the details of the mission. Liu Feng was surprised that Aho was able to find out so quickly and said that their battle ended in a draw. Hearing this, Aho was shocked that the fight ended in a draw, for it meant that this boy. Aho laughed and, recognizing that Liu Feng was indeed very strong, tried to grab that person's shoulder. But suddenly, Liu Feng dodged Aho's hand, and said that he was in a hurry, and therefore he would leave first. Aho felt uncomfortable that Liu Feng had become stronger again, after which he asked him to wait for a second. He said that the city lord wanted to see him. From surprise, Liu Feng turned around and once again asked again, wanting to know why he was being invited. At the same time, Xiao Jin was sadly eating meat and asked Kenshi why Liu Feng wasn't coming back. Kenshi asked how can he even eat so much since he misses Liu Feng. Besides, soon he won't be able to feed him. Xiao Jin told Ken that he was bullying him, so he was going on a hunger strike and would tell Liu Feng as soon as he returned. To which Kenshi replied that it couldn't be a hunger strike since he had already eaten everything. Suddenly, Liu Feng entered the house and warned everyone that he had returned, causing Kenshi and Xiao Jin to look at each other happily. Immediately after that, Xiao Jin pounced on Liu Feng and beat him up, demanding to know where he was, because he missed him very much. Liu Feng grabbed Xiao Jin and lifted him up, asking him to use less force. After a while, Liu Feng and Xiao Jin were already eating meat. Xiao Jin told him that he missed him so much that he couldn't even eat a piece of meat, from which Kenshi shockingly asked if it could be called a piece down my throat. An hour later, Liu Feng was satisfied that he was finally satiated, and Xiao Jin said that he was about 80% satiated, after which, Liu Feng looked at his watch and said that it was time to go to the city lord's banquet, and explained to everyone that he had recently run into Aho and what the latter had said about the lord of the city organizing a banquet where they would discuss the military situation with the monster tribe. When Xiao Jin heard about the banquet, he jumped on Liu Feng's head and told him that he would go with him and that he could no longer leave him. Liu Feng tried to excuse himself by saying that Aho had only invited him and therefore he wasn't sure if he could take anyone else, to which Xiao Jin replied that he didn't care about that. Then Xiao Jin got an idea and told Liu Feng that he couldn't take a human, but no one said a word about pets. After leaving the house, Xiao Jin chuckled at the fact that Liu Feng could take him with him like this, causing Liu Feng to ask if it was worth the hassle of wanting to eat. Meanwhile, Aho was talking to Grand Duke Achi, who was the lord of Sunset Fortress. The prince asked if Liu Feng was really as strong as he said, and Aho replied that Liu Feng was not weaker than him, but on the contrary, he was even stronger. The prince was shocked at what he heard. He asked how Liu Feng could be stronger than him, then awkwardly asked his other brother what rank he was, which made Aho wonder when Achi would improve his memory. But still, Aho explained to his brother that there were 11 stages in total and that he was currently at the 9th stage while Liu Feng was slightly stronger than him. Remembering the ranks, Achi agreed to do as Aho suggested. Suddenly, a guard came up to them and bowed and reported that a young man named Liu Feng had come to them and that he was waiting for an invitation to enter. Afterward, Aho told his brother that he would personally escort Liu Feng to his place. After a while, the maids were lavishly setting the banquet table, and Liu Feng was amazed that the city lord had a truly luxurious mansion. Aho told Liu Feng that his brother Grand Duke had organized this banquet especially for him. Hearing this, Liu Feng understood why there were no other guests here. Prince asked Aho if this was the guy he had told him so much about, after which he awkwardly asked me to repeat his name. Liu Feng was amazed by this, and Aho asked them to forgive them for this, as his brother didn't have a very good memory. Aho introduced Liu Feng to his brother, after which the latter politely gave a bow to the prince. The prince asked Liu Feng to communicate without formality. After all, he only wanted to thank Liu Feng for agreeing to fight the monsters. Liu Feng replied that it was his duty as a human, right after which Xiao Jin couldn't help himself and jumped on the food happy to be able to eat from scratch. The brothers were shocked by what they saw and Liu Feng realized that things were really bad for him. Liu Feng grabbed Xiao Jin's tail and rubbed his head and began to explain that it was his pet voracious snake. The brothers were surprised because of him, for they had never heard of such monsters, and Liu Feng awkwardly explained that he just gave the monster a random name because that's why they don't know about such a thing. Then he demanded the dragon to stop eating because he was dishonoring him. But the lord said he could eat as much as he wanted, for there was plenty of food here. Achi asked Liu Feng if he had really fought the Moon Wolf King, to which the latter honestly replied that these rumors were true. Hearing this, Achi recognized that Liu Feng was indeed a hero and said that when the wolves had been besieging Sunset Fortress for a month, they hadn't even managed to see the king. Liu Feng was surprised that they didn't see the king and said that they had lost a lot because besides the king was very strong, she was also a beautiful woman. When Aho heard that, he was shocked because no one even expected that the king of the Moon Wolves would be a woman, and his brother asked him to tell more about what had happened, and Liu Feng had to ask if they had invited him just to listen to the stories, which made Achi laugh and admit that he had almost forgotten the reason they had invited him, and the reason was to fight the monsters. Aho revealed that the 4 academies would send their best students and that they hoped Liu Feng would become their mentors. Liu Feng was surprised by what he heard and decided to ask about it again, to which Aho replied that although Liu Feng was young, he already had outstanding abilities and had reached unprecedented heights in martial arts, and therefore he was the perfect candidate. Liu Feng said he wouldn't fit since he had never trained anyone, after which Aho explained that the students of the 4 academies are very intelligent and capable and therefore Liu Feng only needs to guide them. But Achi added that all but one crazy girl from the Sigil house and added that she gives him nothing but trouble and gives him a headache when she appears. Liu Feng inquired about who this girl was, and Aho told him that she was just the daughter of a nobleman and had just the most horrible temper and that it would be good if Liu Feng didn't have to come into contact with her. Meanwhile, Xiao Jin had already eaten to his heart's content and was dissatisfied that he couldn't hold anything else, but there were still plenty of delicious things on the table. Immediately after, he rolled over and turned what he ate into energy, making room for new food. Because of which, Aho felt something and asked Liu Feng what kind of pet was this pet whose body emanated heaven and earth energy. Liu Feng was a little panicked that Aho could sense such a weak manifestation of energy and said that it was just a random snake that he picked up in the wild, and therefore he didn't know anything himself. Aho admitted that he was interested in this pet and asked Liu Feng if he would let him study it, because of which Liu Feng realized that his affairs were bad, because if Aho examined Xiao Jin, he might realize who he was. After which, Liu Feng grabbed the dragon cub and said that he would consider their mentoring offer. But now he had to leave as he had many other things to do, and a moment later, he disappeared from the room without giving the brothers a chance to say goodbye. Achi asked his brother how he could ask Liu Feng to investigate the pet. After all, he had scared it away, to which he replied that it wasn't a simple monster, it was probably a saint-ranked monster. Achi asked shocked if Aho was sure of this assumption, to which Aho awkwardly replied that he wasn't entirely sure. And Achi threw a glass at his brother, yelling at him for talking complete nonsense that he can't even confirm. After running away for some distance, Liu Feng looked around and realized that no one was chasing them, and Xiao Jing demanded that he let him go. Liu Feng, after a bit of breathing, yelled at Xiao Jin for getting out, because he had promised that he would secretly steal food for him, to which Xiao Jin embarrassedly replied that he couldn't help himself after seeing all that food. After that, Xiao Jin couldn't stand the shaking and said that he had been drinking too much and started to fall asleep. Immediately afterward, he passed out and Xiao Jin said that he should change his name to Dragon Pig, since he only knew how to eat and drink. Hiding Xiao Jin under Liu Feng's clothes, hoped that Aho didn't have time to realize anything. Suddenly he heard people nearby beating someone and shouting that they were going to kill someone because he was bringing them nothing but bad luck. A moment later a few more people came up to them and began to cheer that this red-eyed witch with black hair was being beaten again. They wondered why no one had killed her before. Liu Feng wondered who this witch was, and as he got closer he heard her being insulted, calling her a cesspit rat who had been cursed by demons and demanding that she be killed right now. A recently fired guard mocked the girl, calling her a homeless mongrel, and wished she were dead, for once he confronted her with her. He was plagued by many misfortunes, and just as he was about to hit the girl, the bottle was caught by Liu Feng moments before the blow. Liu Feng demanded that the man get the hell out of here if he didn't want someone to help him with this. Immediately after which, the man dropped the bottle and fearfully asked Liu Feng what he was doing here. Liu Feng approached the girl and started to ask if she was alright, while the people around him started to discuss whether he had something to do with this witch or whether he was completely crazy. The whispers grew more and more until they were directly asking if he was crazy, and if not, let him kill that witch. Looking at the girl's face, Liu Feng was struck by her blank stare, but at the same time, he felt something familiar in it. He remembered how people whispered that he was cursed, because he had caused the death of his parents, and they were afraid to look at such a dirty child. Liu Feng saw this girl as a younger version of himself. He asked if she was in pain and if she would mind if he took her to the doctor. He asked not to be afraid of him and said he was not a bad person. In his mind, however, he felt embarrassed that a bad person would definitely say something like that. The girl asked if he was afraid of her, and Liu Feng stroked her head and asked why he should be afraid of her since she was quite cute. The dismissed man wasn't going to stand for all of this and attacked Liu Feng from behind with a shout. Just as suddenly, the sudden attack was stopped by Liu Feng's mirror clone, after which, Liu Feng hugged the girl asking her not to look at what was about to happen, but she disobeyed and watched the mirror clone kill the man. When people saw this, they were frightened and started running away, shouting that there had been a murder and asking someone to call the guards. Immediately after which, the girl pushed away from Liu Feng, slightly surprising the latter, and she got the blood of the man she had just killed into her mouth, which made her taste human blood, and her eyes glistened red. Liu Feng offered to walk the girl home, to which she replied that she had no home, and immediately left, startling Liu Feng with her bitter temper. But suddenly she stumbled and fell, losing consciousness in the process. A moment later, Liu Feng was already walking with the girl to the doctor to help treat the girl's wounds, as he suddenly missed a certain man, who was Lei Ting, and the latter was startled by this encounter, for Liu Feng should have died long ago. After a while, Liu Feng realized that he had been walking for quite some time, but he still hadn't found any pharmacies. Therefore, he decided to try to cure the girl with Hua Xia's help. Immediately after that he was surprised, because this girl's meridians were the same as his, or rather only the main meridians coincide, otherwise he would have thought that she came from his world. After the treatment, the girl opened her eyes, from which Liu Feng rejoiced since his treatment had helped. But that one pushed Liu Feng's head away instead of thanking her and descended to the ground. Liu Feng asked her not to run since she was injured, and grabbing the girl's shoulder accidentally tore her clothes. Because of the torn clothes, they had to go to a clothing store, where Liu Feng paid the saleswoman, and the latter, satisfied with the sum received, offered him to take whatever he wanted. Liu Feng offered the girl to take any clothes to replace the torn one, to which she replied that he was only returning her long and she was not going to be indebted to him. Liu Feng awkwardly rubbed his head, agreeing that she was right and that he owed her. Not taking long to examine the assortment, the girl pointed to a red garment. After looking at the outfit, Liu Feng felt uncomfortable with such red clothes and asked him to choose another outfit because this one was not beautiful enough. After that he suggested her Lolita outfit, because a little girl in this outfit will surely look cute. But the girl refused. Then Liu Feng offered her maid outfits, schoolgirl outfits and even uniforms. But she turned around and said she wanted those clothes. Taking the outfit to the checkout counter, Liu Feng asked the clerk to take another look at the bag of gold and asked if she could help wash his little sister. The saleswoman was uncomfortable with this strange young man who picked up the beggar and called her sister, but still agreed to escort the girl to the bathroom in one of the fitting rooms. She asked the girl to follow her as she suddenly noticed her red eyes and got scared. Seeing this, the girl grabbed her clothes and left, saying she would wash herself. As soon as the girl stepped back, the panicked sales clerk tried to whisper to Liu Feng that this girl was a witch with red eyes, but Liu Feng said that this girl was his little sister, and therefore demanded the seller to take the money and shut his mouth. After a while, Liu Feng was already tired of waiting for his little sister to wash up, just as suddenly he sensed something and instantly jumped out of the store. He thought he felt the urge to kill immediately, after which he heard a girl screaming from the store. As soon as he ran in, the saleswoman started making excuses that it wasn't her since she was at the register the whole time, and Liu Feng assumed that someone had tried to distract him and hoped that the girl wasn't scared. After all, he was already close. Running into the fitting room, Liu Feng panicked and asked if the girl was alright, and lowering his gaze he saw that she wasn't hurt because of anyone. The girl said that she fell when she climbed up on a chair to reach the hairbrush, to which Liu Feng replied that he thought that because she was screaming, he thought she was in trouble. The girl said that everyone around was afraid of her and asked why Liu Feng wasn't afraid of her and even saved her. Liu Feng asked why he should be afraid of her since she was just a little girl. The girl said she was cursed by a demon and her family tried to kill her thinking she would bring them disaster. Liu Feng asked what kind of demonic curse it was, and the girl offered to look at her eyes, saying that the demon had rewarded her with them, and asked if Liu Feng was disgusted with her because of them. Liu Feng replied that he thought she was nice and kind, which made the girl wonder why he thought so, and Liu Feng awkwardly chuckled and said that they have the same hair color, and besides, he thinks her eyes are quite beautiful. The girl tilted her head and called him a liar, because she was sure that there was no man who liked her eyes and who could like her, and even her family wanted to kill her. She did not believe that he did not disgust her. After thinking it over, she blurted out that he was a liar, for no one would ever recognize a person cursed by a demon, and even her family had easily given up on her, so there's no way she can believe that he would recognize her. But unexpectedly, Liu Feng took her hands and said that he would recognize her. Afterwards, he hugged her and told her that he couldn't be afraid of her just because of the color of her eyes and that he wanted her to be part of his family in the future. The girl was amazed, beginning to realize that Liu Feng really wasn't afraid of her, and began to believe in his words. Then he remembered that he had forgotten something and asked what her name was. The girl looked at her clothes and said her name was Hongyi, red clothes. Finally hearing the girl's name, Liu Feng offered to go with him to her new home. The girl was surprised at the word doi, and Liu Feng explained that his house was now her house. But there were a few rules in their house, and according to the first rule, she shouldn't care about other people's attitude towards her and should just live happily ever after. Immediately afterwards he asked her to wait a little longer, for they had not yet put her clothes in order, and it would be good to cut her hair. And lastly he asked her if she liked bows. Meanwhile, in the residence of the lord of the city, Aho praised the cloaked man for his unrivaled strength and said that with his help, they would definitely be able to win the battle against the monsters. To which the latter replied that he hated monsters and therefore it was his duty to fight them on the side of humanity. Achi applauded him contentedly, for there were now 2 9th-ranked warriors on the side of Sunset Fortress. Aho told the warrior that there was another 9th-rank warrior named Liu Feng on their side and that he would like to invite them both to tomorrow's banquet. Lei Ting was amazed that Liu Feng was already able to reach rank 9, and realized that this was the reason why he was able to feel his lust for killing, and after thinking things over a bit, he decided to abandon the banquet and engage in cultivation. Promising that he would come when the battles with the monsters began, Achi offered the warrior to stay at his residence, promising that he would be given the best cultivation grounds and that no one would bother him. But he turned around and left and asked them not to worry about him as he would represent their fortress during the battle of the monsters. Achi asked his brother if he was sure that this warrior wasn't a spy for the monster tribe, but he replied that the monsters didn't like humans, and he had already made some inquiries about him, so he was sure he was on the side of the humans. At the same time, as soon as Lei Ting moved to a deserted place, a black cat ran up to him, and meowing asked him if he'd done everything according to their plan, and he asked the cat to report to Lord Angie that he had managed to gain the people's trust. Immediately afterward, the cat jumped on the railing and running away asked that he contact her later. Left alone, Lei Ting said that he had lost everything because of these people, so he swore that he would repay them in kind. Liu Feng led Hong Yi to Qirei's house where Ken Shi and Xiao Jin lived. Hong Yi was surprised to see this house and said it wasn't much different from the dump where she used to live. In response, Liu Feng awkwardly said that there were a few guys living here after all and offered to show her a trick, and immediately turned into a typhoon that picked up all the trash scattered around the house. After a moment, he informed her that the cleaning was complete and added that wind walking was the perfect skill for cleaning the house. Liu Feng asked her if she thought it was cool and if she wanted to learn how to do it. And she said that she also wanted to learn to become as cool as him, but everyone says she is cursed by a demon and is unable to learn magic or do qi. Liu Feng asked her not to listen to this nonsense and promised that he would teach her everything on the condition that she would obey him and do what he said. And at the same moment, Liu Feng realized that he hadn't seen Ken Shi's brother yet, and he wanted to find out if they had a spare room. He suddenly noticed that he was lying drunk under the table, offering Xiao Jin another drink in his dream, as they had plenty of drinks. When Liu Feng heard this, he realized that it was because of Ken Shi that Xiao Jin had a drinking problem. He then yelled at Ken Shi demanding that he wake up now. Ken Shi opened his eyes thinking that he heard Liu Feng say something to him, and seeing him, he was glad that he had returned and fairly knocked over the table, after which all the garbage on the table was sprinkled on his head, and Liu Feng felt ashamed of him, and the cleaning had also gone to waste. Ken Shi looked around and wondered how there was so much trash in the house, since he only lightly grazed the table. Instead of explaining, Liu Feng introduced Hong Yi to him saying that she would now be living with them. Ken Shi looked at her and noticing her eyes panicked as she was the witch. He asked Liu Feng why he brought a witch into their house and Liu Feng asked if he knew anything about her. Ken Shi asked how he could not know about her, because she is a blood-eyed witch that the whole town knows about and that everyone is talking about the fact that right after she was born, her family members started dying one by one, so her parents thought it was her fault and tried to kill her. Liu Feng asked what happened next and Ken Shi told him that after that, there was a fire in her house in which her parents died. It was only at this moment that Liu Feng realized how much Hong Yi had gone through. Ken Shi asked Liu Feng not to leave her with them, because she really is a witch and will definitely bring trouble on them. Immediately afterward, a cabinet leg broke and fell on Ken Shi's head confirming his words of failure. After which, Liu Feng looked on pityingly as Ken Shi lost consciousness and fell with the cabinet on the floor. Liu Feng told Hong Yi that brother Ken was so happy that he even fainted, and therefore he would talk to him again tomorrow. The next day, Liu Feng began to teach Hong Yi, telling her to imagine cutting the watermelon into 2 pieces, and creating a vortex explained that one half should be for her and the other half for him. Then he finished showing her the movements and explained to her that martial arts should be learned step by step, and to master the wind step she should first learn Taijiquan. He explained to her how to stand correctly and corrected her by telling her that the stance should be lower, the movement slower and that she should straighten her right arm. An hour later, Hong Yi was already able to form a vortex surprising Liu Feng with it. Liu Feng was shocked that Hong Yi was able to awaken the powers of heaven and earth so quickly and even thought that she was a legendary genius. From Liu Feng's gaze, Hong Yi thought she had done something wrong, but Liu Feng told her that she was doing well. But at this moment, he was thinking about the fact that he hadn't even told her about meridian points or taught her how to draw energy and she could already do it, which was very strange. Besides, she could learn Taijiquan in an hour when it took him a whole week. Hong Yi examined her hands and asked Liu Feng what he had taught her. Was it a slow killing skill? And Liu Feng asked why she thought slow meant weak. Besides, martial arts are not learned for killing people. Martial arts are made for self-defense and protecting others. At the same moment, Kenshi ran out of the house and immediately headed towards Liu Feng. Liu Feng was glad that Kenshi had finally woken up, and he looked at Hong Yi with a sneaky look, and after running around her a few meters away, he asked Liu Feng why she was still here. Liu Feng asked Kenshi to calm down and suggested a way to decide whether Hong Yi would stay here or not. He suggested that Kenshi fight Hong Yi. If Kenshi wins, Hong Yi will leave them, but if he loses, she will stay with them. Hearing this, both Kenshi and Hong Yi were surprised by this suggestion. Kenshi turned on his crazy imagination and thought that Liu Feng simply didn't know how to drive this witch away, so he asked him to do it personally. After all, that way she would have no reason to take revenge on them, so it seemed quite logical. Kenshi asked how she would fight with him, since she did not possess neither magic nor do-chi, to which Liu Feng replied that he did not possess them either. But even so Kenshi would not be able to defeat him. But instead, Liu Feng suggested that Kenshi use 50% of his own strength instead of do-chi, and he narcissistically agreed, saying that he couldn't just bully kids. Liu Feng stroked Hong Yi with a suggestion to use technique in battle, for only in this way would she be able to realize that even slow movements could be very powerful. Hong Yi got ready for the fight and stood up in a stance, and Kenshi asked if she was ready to fight, after which he swung around and asked her to defend herself as he was about to attack. As he got closer, he hit Hong Yi who was trying to defend herself, from which she flew backwards, but Liu Feng caught her and asked her to be more careful and not block his frontal attacks. Liu Feng then asked if Kenshi had promised that he would only use 50% of his strength, to which the latter awkwardly replied that it was 50%. Liu Feng advised Hong Yi not to attack Kenshi head-on, because the essence of Taijiquan is to use the opponent's strength against him. Kenshi said that he would only use 30% of his strength this time and immediately lunged at Hong Yi, but she deftly dodged his attack, causing Kenshi to lose his balance, and pushed him from behind causing him to fall face down. Kenshi asked why he had fallen, for it seemed to him as if she was like a ghost. Liu Feng asked if Hong Yi liked the slow technique, to which she immediately agreed and said that it was quite strong. Afterward, Liu Feng announced that Kenshi had lost, and the latter reluctantly said that Hong Yi could stay. After all, a man must keep his word. Liu Feng approached Kenshi and said that he was willing to vouch that Hong Yi was not a witch, and he couldn't help but agree with Liu Feng's words. Suddenly there were shouts. People were shouting that monsters had broken into the city and asking for someone to call Aho. People scattered in panic as the guards tried to contain the monster in hopes of waiting for reinforcements. A cloaked figure and a black cat stood nearby. Discussing this attack, Lei Ting told the cat that the plan had succeeded, because by sending one monster into the city, they already had all the information about the city's defenses and secrets, to which the cat replied that they had to pay too great a price for that. And Lei Ting said that the greater the benefit, the greater the price had to be paid. After all, the more disturbances the monster made, the more information they would learn. Meanwhile, the guards continued to hold back the monster, and not far from them were an old woman and her grandson trying to run away to save themselves. Just as suddenly, the old lady tripped and fell that the monster happened to see, and immediately burst out to kill her. But just before the collision, Liu Feng appeared between them, after which, he used his strength and told Hong Yi to watch him use his opponent's strength against himself. And once the horns of the monster were right in front of Liu Feng's hands, Liu Feng used a bit of his strength and was able to lift the huge beast effortlessly. Then he started waving it around like it was a feather. The guards were amazed at what they saw, and the stars in Hong Yi's eyes lit up from seeing Liu Feng's strength. Seeing this, the cat called the monster an idiot, and added that he was a bull, not a donkey pulling a mill. Lei Ting said that it was not his fault, for he was trying to free himself but couldn't. He explained to the cat that this was Liu Feng's special technique. The stronger the opponent, the harder it was for him to break free. After mocking the monster, Liu Feng decided to let it go, which made it spin around a bit more and collapsed to the ground. After that, Hong Yi ran up to him and started talking about how cool this technique was. And Liu Feng agreed, saying that Taijiquan is the core of Chinese martial arts. Hong Yi asked Liu Feng how he used this technique and started spinning around trying to learn the same way. But after just a moment, she felt bad about it and Liu Feng promised that he would teach her about it once they returned. Afterward, he helped the old lady and asked if she was okay. The old lady thanked Liu Feng for his help, but he refused to thank her. Suddenly, the monster came to its senses and seeing the color red tried to attack Hong Yi. Seeing this, Liu Feng realized that even the bulls in this world are the same as those on Earth. They are just as crazy about the color red, and shouted to Hong Yi to dodge that bull. Immediately afterward, he used an air step and snatched Hong Yi from under the monster, after which he set her on the ground, stroked her and asked her to wait for him here. Then pulled out his sword and told the monster that he wanted to keep it alive and give it to his brother Aho. But since he attacked the lowly, he has no choice but to deal with him. After striking the monster with a sharp blow, Liu Feng was at its back and hid his sword in its scabbard. But at that moment, he realized that the monster was falling on Hong Yi and shouted for her to get out of its way. Immediately after, he tore towards her and grabbed her and jumped out of the monster's way. When he landed, he picked her up and was glad that everything was okay, because if the monster had fallen near her, he would have had a hard time laundering her clothes. Seeing Liu Feng deal with the monster, the cat scratched the floor and asked who this person was. She wanted him to die. Lei Ting told the cat that she didn't need to think about it, and that he would deal with him himself. Cat was surprised that Lei Ting knew that man, and the man said that Aho was close, and therefore they needed to leave. After finishing everything, Liu Feng started to praise Hong Yi for being so brave, and at the same moment Aho arrived at the scene of the battle. He ordered the guards to survey the city and find out how the spy was able to infiltrate the city. After which, he turned to Liu Feng and thanked him for coming to their rescue in time. Liu Feng thought about the fact that in movies, the police always arrive last, and even now happened as well. Then told brother Aho that he was not in much of a hurry, and Aho explained that students from the 4 schools had arrived and he was to meet them. Liu Feng asked about it, and Aho revealed that the plan was for them to arrive only a few days later, but they had arrived early. Then he noticed Hong Yi and wanted to ask Liu Feng if it was a witch standing next to him, but Liu Feng punched him in the stomach, preventing him from saying what he wanted to say, and said that it was his little sister Hong Yi. Aho grinned sullenly and told Liu Feng that his little sister was quite cute, and wondered if only Liu Feng could call her a sister. After that, Liu Feng introduced Hong Yi to his older brother Aho and said that the house they were living in was provided by them. Hong Yi said hello to Aho and he decided that since brother Liu Feng was happy, he would stay out of it. Aho remembered and asked if Liu Feng wanted to test his disciples' strength, since this was a great opportunity to do so, and Liu Feng asked if he didn't know their levels. Aho replied that he knew, but Liu Feng needed to see them for himself, and it would be good for them to meet since he would be their mentor. Liu Feng awkwardly rubbed his head and told him that he had not yet agreed to be their mentor. Just as suddenly Aho made puppy dog eyes and asked how can he be so heartless since they have known each other for so long. He said that Liu Feng's heart hurts and he is shy to say it, but inside they both know what is going on. They know this game and they are going to play it. Unable to withstand the pressure Liu Feng several times, he tried to stop Aho and said that he agreed to be a mentor. From what Aho heard, he immediately praised Liu Feng for his altruistic nature and offered to go to his disciples right now. After which, a satisfied Aho leaned over to Hong Yi and said that she could go with them too. Liu Feng mentally agreed that mentoring made sense. Besides, if Wei Er was alive, she would arrive with the disciples of Xing Lan Academy. After a while, they still reached the meeting place with the students, and just seeing them, the students wondered what kind of weaklings were following Mr. Aho, and there was a child among them. Liu Feng suggested Hong Yi to look around the place but asked her not to run around. And he also asked Aho to give her a chair and snacks. Aho told Liu Feng that these were the students of the 4 academies, and fortunately that girl could not be seen among them. She said that group classes were a waste of time and therefore didn't come, and Liu Feng agreed that she was indeed a troubled person. When Aho came closer, he asked the students to give him some time and introduced Liu Feng, their new teacher. After that, he said hello to them. Some of the students have asked Aho how they can be taught by a peer. And besides, they don't feel a drop of power in him. Aho was about to reason with the kids, but Liu Feng interrupted them asking if they thought he wasn't worthy of teaching them. After that, a certain girl came out from behind the students and agreed, because it was funny that a trash who was neither a mage nor a warrior wanted to become their teacher. Aho lost his breath that this girl had decided to come after all. Then she told Liu Feng that if he wanted to be their teacher, he had to defeat her first. Liu Feng asked Aho if this was the girl he was talking about, to which he replied that it was. She was Nigula Shui, the eldest daughter of the Nigula family. Shui asked Aho if they really should be trained by such trash. Glaring, she asked if they were trying to insult the 4 academies, from which Liu Feng mentally scared, because if Aho hadn't persuaded him, he wouldn't have agreed to become their teacher. Just as suddenly, Hong Yi came closer to them and demanded Shui to stop insulting Liu Feng, and a large amount of energy began to emanate from her, causing a cold itch to run down the students' backs. Shui was astonished by this girl's gaze, for in it, she sensed an incredibly strong lust for killing. Meanwhile, Liu Feng rejoiced at how cute Hong Yi is, and even tries to stick up for him. Shui sighed and said that only her eyes were scary, but she didn't have any strength. Hearing this, Liu Feng asked Shui if she knew what the idiom "frog at the bottom of the well" meant. If so, then she shouldn't judge them just using the knowledge from the academy. She may be a genius in the academy, but in his eyes she is inferior even to a fart. The rest of the students began to complain that such trash dared to carry nonsense in front of them, and began to shout to the commander to teach this madman a lesson. Shui drew her sword and pointing it at Liu Feng said that he would answer for his words. Liu Feng told Aho that he wanted to have a good chat with the disciples, and asked him to rest together with Hong Yi on the sidelines. Aho asked Liu Feng not to overreact and the latter asked Liu Feng to trust him. Liu Feng asked if he should start the fight with Nigula Shui. Suddenly, a big man stepped forward and said that such trash was not worthy of Miss Nigula's hands, and therefore he would personally teach him a lesson. After which, the blue-haired disciple intervened. He said that it was not nice to behave like this with a girl, and therefore, he would only forgive Liu Feng if he begged on his knees and shouted 3 times that he was trash. Immediately after, the armor-clad disciple asked Miss Shui to wait while they cleaned up this trash. Liu Feng immediately realized that this trio just wanted to show off in front of the girl. He realized that they had never been treated badly in society and that was the reason they had become so boastful. So he suggested that they attack them 3-on-1. Shui was surprised at what she heard, and the rest of the students began to resent the insolence of this madman. Suddenly, the big guy rushed at Liu Feng and shouted at him not to be so arrogant, because he only needed 1 blow for Liu Feng to start calling him daddy. But suddenly, Liu Feng dodged his strike and stopped his hand right at his neck, from which the others were shocked by such precise movements and his strength. Liu Feng said that if he wanted to, the big guy would already be dead, but the big guy wasn't going to admit defeat and said that Liu Feng was just lucky, because there was no way he could lose to a scum without a drop of mana. Right after which, Liu Feng gently pushed him away and said that he would give him another chance. He grinned mockingly and suggested they attack at once, for they are just like the big guy, complete garbage. Hearing this, the armor-clad disciple drew his sword and said that he never holds back, but for this kind of nonsense, he promised to sew Liu Feng's mouth shut. And the blue-haired disciple said that his anger was not something Liu Feng could handle, and even falling to his knees would not make him stop. After preparing, all 3 disciples immediately attacked Liu Feng, wanting to take his life. Liu Feng dodged the blade of the armor-clad disciple. Immediately afterward, the mage froze his legs, rendering him unable to dodge, after which, the armor-clad disciple attacked Liu Feng again, but was blocked by the sword, and in the next moment, a big man jumped towards them, preparing to end the fight with a single blow. The audience cheered at the fact that Trash had lost to 3 students, and scoffed at the fact that all he had to do was beg for mercy. Liu Feng praised the disciples for their interaction and immediately used a quadruple lunge, the power of which was enough to easily throw the student in armor straight at the mage. And lastly, he delivered a decisive blow to the big guy flying toward him. Seeing the sword at his head, the big guy shook and admitted that he had lost after all. The spectators were shocked that the recognized Shi Zhang had lost. They couldn't understand how he was able to turn the situation around in one fell swoop, and someone even thought that he had gone blind. The mage started yelling at Gan Xie to get up off of him if he didn't want to kill him, then started demanding that someone get the idiot off of him. After watching the battle, Shui said that they should be very ashamed of losing to the Trash. Liu Feng began to boast that he was the strongest, and Hong Yi inspiringly began to encourage him. The disciples were discussing how shamefully Shi Zhang had lost, and that it was better for these disciples not to get into a fight that they couldn't win. Liu Feng turned around and told Ms. Nigula that it was her turn now. In response, she raised her sword and demanded that he shut up, after which, she rushed towards Liu Feng, but right at the moment of impact, she passed as if through a fog. Liu Feng, who was at her back, said that her punch was too slow, and Shui couldn't understand how he was able to move so fast. Immediately after which, Shui abruptly turned around and started throwing multiple punches, which Liu Feng had no problem dodging. Liu Feng said that it is natural for a child who has never been in a battle to be weak. Liu Feng said that all of her punches were missed and then asked why she was cutting the floor since he obviously had no beef with her. Hearing this, Nigula Shui became even angrier and struck with all her might, demanding that he shut up. But Liu Feng grabbed her sword with 2 fingers and asked why she was so angry. But Shui ignored the question and demanded that he let go of her blade. Liu Feng told her that she was too slow in exposing the blade, exerted too little strength to hold the sword. The skills although flashy but useless, and the footwork was confusing. Letting out his sword, he asked if they deserved the title of geniuses with such skills, and if they knew how to use a sword even a little bit. But Nigula Shui wasn't going to put up with his words and began to use all her strength. Immediately after that, she started throwing multiple punches wanting to end Liu Feng's life. Liu Feng was surprised and interested in her sword art, as the trajectory of her strike began to materialize in the air, as a sudden attack grazed his shoulder, from which he marveled at the sharpness of those attacks. The disciples around him cheered as Shui used the Nigula family's supreme technique, the full moon dance. Everyone was sure that Miss Nigula would never lose and that Liu Feng would die as soon as the sword depicted the full moon. Dodging Liu Feng's attacks, realized how he had to end the battle to win. He needed to exploit Shui's arrogance. He needed to deprive her of her trump card and force her to surrender. And just as she prepared to finish the fight, Liu Feng drew his sword and blocked the attack, after which there was a large explosion, throwing all the students away. From such a strong blow, Shui found herself on her knees and Liu Feng reported that she had lost. Shui couldn't accept that she had lost to Trash without a drop of magic and Do Chi, and the disciples were shocked that Trash was able to break through the Nyola family's supreme skill. They thought that now Xinglan Academy would lose face because of her. Hearing all of this, Shui panicked. She was certain that there was no way she should lose, or she would dishonor the Nigel family. After that, she decided to use the secret art to deal with Liu Feng, but suddenly he grabbed her arm and demanded that she stop. Shui demanded that Liu Feng let her go, to which he replied that he was her mentor and therefore could not allow her to commit suicide. But she once again demanded that he let go of her and tried to strike with her fist. But Liu Feng was able to intercept that punch as well. He told her that she was really reckless, and told her that he had other things to do, and therefore he couldn't just play with them, and if she wanted everyone to see her like that she could keep fighting, dishonoring her family. After hearing this, Shui brushed off his hand and said that she would see what kind of flowers he could grow. After finishing the showdown with Shui, Liu Feng asked who else thought that he was not fit to be a mentor. After that, the strongest disciples took turns saying that they were willing to be trained by him. They were the disciples of the Yaoyue Academy of Zhongxia Kingdom, the disciples of the Dragon Knights Academy of the Dragon God Empire, and the disciples from the Sword and Magic Academy of the Tianhai Empire. Liu Feng was satisfied that they only started listening to him when he gave them a good beating. Several students were about to ask Shui to say something, but suddenly she told Liu Feng that she would only recognize him as a teacher in his dreams. Liu Feng was taken aback by her attitude, but still chose to ignore it. After which, Liu Feng explained to everyone that training would officially start tomorrow, so everyone should gather tomorrow morning, and so he said that until then they could be free. Shui was surprised by Liu Feng's speech and asked if that was really all he wanted to tell them, to which he replied that he did, because the time was late. If she wanted to fight it would be better some other time, but right now he was going to take his little sister home, but still he advised her to forget it, for she was not his adversary, whereupon he took Hong Yi by the hand and went home with her. As they approached Chi Ri's house, Liu Feng told Hong Yi that their drunkard should have woken up by now. After all, it had been quite some time, and this is the perfect moment for them to get to know each other. So Hong Yi asks who the drunk guy is, but as they approached the house, a huge fireball flew out of the doorway. Dodging Liu Feng's fireball, Hong Yi told Hong Yi to stand there while he checked the situation. Immediately afterward, he ran into the house, where he saw a terrified Ken Shi and Xiao Jin exhaling a huge amount of fire. Liu Feng demanded an answer from Xiao Jin as to what it was that he was doing here, after which, the latter noticed Liu Feng and slightly dispelled the fire and showed puppy dog eyes. Liu Feng picked up Xiao Jin and asked if he had lost his mind, whereupon he sobbed and said that Ken Shi was leaving and he didn't want that. And Ken Shi said that Liu Feng will participate in the monster battle, while he himself is useless and can't help by staying in the city. And he was going to leave since Beta sent a letter from a bigger order in Xinglan City. He said that the leader of the group should attend. Liu Feng asked about this city, and Ken Shi explained that Xinglan City was the capital of the Xinglan Empire. Xiao Jin burst into tears and started begging Ken Shi not to leave, for if Liu Feng abandoned him again, he would become an orphan, to which Liu Feng replied that at most he would become an abandoned child, for he was not going to die. Liu Feng told Ken that he was also going to go to Xinglan after the battle with the monsters, so it would be good for Ken Shi to scout the way. Xiao Jin waved a handkerchief at Ken and wished him a good journey. Just as suddenly, Hong Yi appeared in the doorway, and Liu Feng told her to go in instead of standing in the doorway. As soon as Hong Yi entered, as Xiao Jin jumped off Liu Feng, and Liu Feng said that he would introduce them to each other. But after a moment, a spark of rivalry flashed between the kids. Liu Feng picked up Xiao Jin and introduced his little sister to him, and to her, he introduced Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin was shocked at what he heard, for to introduce Hong Yi, Liu Feng had used 3 more words. He realized that this girl could take his place and that he would soon be kicked out. Immediately after fantasizing, Xiao Jin wept and running away started to blame Liu Feng for cheating. After all, he thought he had the only one. He clung to Ken Shi's hiking bag and asked him to take it with him, because Liu Feng didn't need it anymore. But the one with a grim face refused Xiao Jin, admitting that he wouldn't be able to feed him. From this kind of rejection, Xiao Jin decided that he could not give up so quickly. After all, he was a man. Xiao Jin told Hong Yi that he wouldn't leave Liu Feng to her alone, and that he wasn't afraid of her. Hong Yi was slightly surprised that Xiao Jin was not the least bit afraid of her, whereupon he jumped aside, and angrily leaving he said that he would not leave, and that no one would take his place. Watching this Liu Feng's, Ken Shi realized that they didn't understand anything, after which Ken Shi said goodbye again, saying that he was already delayed, and Liu Feng offered to see him off, but the man refused to do so, for his wagon had been waiting at the door for some time. The next day, Liu Feng and his disciples gathered in the square, and he began to count them, and reaching Nigula Shui he inwardly chuckled at the fact that although she didn't want to come, her body was more honest. After counting everyone, Liu Feng said that he wasn't going to waste time and that in today's class, they would all deal with their shortcomings that might get in the way during the battle. He informed them that their main problem was their lack of combat experience, and lack of a strong will to kill the enemy. Shi Zhang asked how he was going to train them. Wasn't he going to make them fight to the death? And the one agreed that it was a great idea, and so he let them think about it for a while. Hearing this, the disciples were astonished, for Liu Feng was indeed like a devil and were already afraid of the method for training he might choose. After playing around, Liu Feng said that they had had enough of the jokes and that he would take them to a place where they could gain battle experience, and that place is the arena of life and death. After hearing this, a silence hung among the students. Liu Feng inquired if there was anything here that they didn't like. Yi Shui explained that they were all thinking of a more worthy training than a battle with slaves. The mage then said that they were all nobles, and that they should watch the slaves fight amongst themselves, not engage in battles with them. Liu Feng asked if they cared so much about the reputation of the nobility. After all, if they weren't going to fight in the arena, they could hardly prepare for a battle with monsters. But the mage kept leaning in. He offered to provide a few dozen masters from their guard who would make excellent sparring partners. Liu Feng explained that they could only overcome their limits by fighting at the limit between life and death, and game sparring was unlikely to help them become stronger. He said that he wasn't forcing them to go there, but otherwise they wouldn't participate in the monster battle. Such measures are necessary to ensure that humanity does not lose face and the students stay alive. The mage wanted to understand why Liu Feng was angry with him specifically. After all, he was clearly not the only one who didn't want to enter the arena. Nigula Shui said that she would give them all 3 minutes to think, and those who didn't want to go to the arena would be sent back to the academy. After which, Shui asked Liu Feng if they would really become stronger by entering the arena. To which he replied that it all depended on their will. After thinking it over for a bit, Shui agreed to go to the arena, which shocked the mage. Some students admired Ms. Nigula's determination and agreed to go along with her. The magician asked if they really all wanted to go to the dirty arena. Shi Zhang said that he listens to those who are stronger, and if a mage wants to be listened to, he must defeat the teacher. And Gang Sa said that if the young master is weak and scared, he can just go home. The mage resented the actions of these goons, but still decided to follow them along with the rest of the academy's students. As they approached the arena, the disciples were amazed at the size of the arena. It was clearly larger than Xinlan's arena, and even Liu Feng appreciated this arena, which made arena owner Moya chuckle and said that it was the biggest arena of Sunset Fortress and even bigger than the surrounding cities. He said that Mr. Aho ordered him to obey Liu Feng, and said that Liu Feng could just call him Moya. Liu Feng asked if they had an unattended arena, to which Moya replied that they had one and that they would prepare it right away. Stepping into the stands of the arena, Shi Zhang recognized that this was the first time he had been to a place like this and that he had only heard of them before. And the mage was sickened by the mere smell of blood. Shui asked Liu Feng why he had brought them here and what he was going to do next. But Liu Feng asked her to take her time and said that he would give them a small performance first. Liu Feng asked Moya where the people who should receive them were, and Moya said that Liu Feng would be satisfied with them. He then blew his whistle and the battle-hardened slaves entered the arena. It was only after seeing them that Liu Feng recognized the aura of true warriors emanating from them. Moya was pleased that Liu Feng was able to evaluate the slaves properly, as he personally selected them from the prisoners sentenced to execution. But Liu Feng added that he needed to make more selections, which made Moya wonder what he wanted to do. Liu Feng ordered the slaves' legs to be untied so that he could be the first to fight them, causing Moya to shout in astonishment that it was too dangerous. Hearing this, the slaves thought that this child clearly did not value his life. Liu Feng waved his finger and said that if they defeated him, they could gain freedom. As soon as the shackles opened, all the slaves immediately rushed towards Liu Feng. Liu Feng smirked at the fact that as he remembered arena battles in the movies looked very cool, and here was his chance to personally experience it. Once in the crowd of prisoners, Liu Feng with ease dodged all their attacks and counterattacked. The disciples watching this battle were amazed by Liu Feng's movements and wondered what kind of martial art this was. Meanwhile, Liu Feng was selecting slaves. One he knocked out for his slowness, the others for lack of level and weakness, and there was even one that Liu Feng knocked out for being ugly. A moment later, only the 6 fighters he had selected remained in the arena. Seeing this, the magician thought that Liu Feng was a real devil since he was so strong. While the knight noticed that even when fighting with his disciples, he didn't show his full strength. And even Shui was amazed at how strong Liu Feng was. She promised that she would definitely defeat him in the future. Just as suddenly, Liu Feng sneered and wondered what such a thing was being said about him. Liu Feng pointed at the rookies behind him and said that those who beat them would be able to gain freedom. The slaves wondered if Liu Feng was really telling them the truth, to which he replied that he wasn't going to joke and that this was their only chance to get freedom. Hearing this, the strongest of the slaves decided to trust Liu Feng and said that his name was Baote. Liu Feng then asked what the others' names were and they named their Yiwen, Darabeti Bidarat, Bangbam Bodo Rutshend, Kataitwa Kintuda, Mandaluk Beachball and Luciaka Gekuluwan. So many strange names made Liu Feng dizzy, and he decided that since their boss was called Baote, he would call the others Bao 2, Bao 3, and so on. Returning to the disciples, Liu Feng asked if everyone was ready. After all, this was their last chance to leave. Shui demanded that he stop wasting time and start practicing now, causing Liu Feng to praise her for her attitude. In the first battle, Liu Feng had placed 8 people from the academies except for the leaders, and they must defeat the prisoners in a 2-on-1 battle. Shi Zhang shouted to his guys to do a good job, and the magician asked them not to embarrass themselves, and as soon as Liu Feng blew his whistle, all the disciples in the arena were lying unconscious a moment later. Shui asked in surprise how this was possible, and Liu Feng asked if she was scared. After all, he had warned that they were too weak. Shi Zhang said that it was impossible for their disciples to lose so quickly, and the magician also began to assure that the slaves had obviously cheated. In the next battle, Liu Feng pitted Shi Zhang against Bao Tu. As he entered the field, he began to scoff at the fact that he, being an 8th ranked slave, was pitted against a 7th ranked slave, because there was no way he could lose, from which Bao Tu scared, for he had yet to kill someone with an 8th rank. The magician told Liu Feng that the opponent's level was lower and therefore he wouldn't be able to win. He said that there was no point in such a battle, but Liu Feng told the person that he was wrong, because Shi Zhang didn't even have a chance of winning. As soon as the fight started, Shi Zhang rushed at Bao Tu and struck a blow on his arm, breaking his bone, but suddenly he counterattacked with a right-hand punch, and was about to take his opponent's life with just one blow. But Liu Feng intercepted the blow and ordered Bao Tu to stop. Liu Feng told Shi Zhang that if he hadn't stopped the slave, he would already be dead, but the latter accepted his defeat without disagreement. Liu Feng asked if he understood why he lost to an opponent who was a rank lower, to which the man replied that he really couldn't understand why things had gotten that way, and Liu Feng explained that Shi Zhang was not willing to put his life on the line, while Bao Tu was willing to suffer an injury that could cause him to die. And he on the other hand had no such determination. Then he turned to the students and said that they had come here to learn this very thing. For in the battle between man and beast it is decided only which of them will die, and if they do not put their lives on the line, they will only lose them. Liu Feng told the disciples that they would be fighting here for 5 days, and that he hoped that it would be enough for them to learn how to fight while risking their lives. Hearing this, Sigula Shui and Gon Sa agreed with the teacher's instructions, but seeing that the mage didn't answer anything, Liu Feng shouted to ask if the mage had heard him, from which the mage immediately agreed with him. The mage sobbed, thinking it too cruel, for he didn't have a chance to relive those days either. After finishing demonstrating their flaws, Liu Feng began to teach the disciples the knowledge needed to kill the monsters, gave them strength training at the same time with an invisible chair. But the mage decided to use his powers to make this training easier. Noticing this, Liu Feng pulled off his robe and threatened to burn it if he dared to cheat again. And the man began to promise in tears that it would not happen again. And during the sparring sessions, Liu Feng told the students about their weaknesses. He told Shui that she should not only dodge, she should find a chance to attack, because she was much faster than the opponent. Shui understood what Liu Feng wanted to say, and after landing, she immediately went around her opponent and put her sword to his neck. Seeing that Shui had won, all the disciples began to cheer for her, and even Nigula Shui was happy for the first time since arriving at Sunset Fortress. Liu Feng praised her by saying that she fought well, from which she turned away and left the arena with a dissatisfied expression. After 5 days of training, Shi Zhang was still able to defeat Bao Tu. Bao Tu accepted his defeat, and Shi Zhang laughed at the fact that he was able to do so. Liu Feng announced that this was the end of their special training and that he was waiting for them at the training ground tomorrow. Gang Sa and Shi Zhang thanked Liu Feng for his training and said they would bow out first. The magician suggested they get back to town quickly so they could pick up 18 girls to play with. Seeing that Nigula Shui's group wasn't leaving, Liu Feng asked why they were still here. Wasn't it because they didn't want to say goodbye to him? From what she heard, Shui grudgingly hummed and ordered the other students to go first, while she had something to talk to Liu Feng about. That's where I'm going to end it. So guys, if you liked this video, let's get 1000 likes on this video. Also subscribe to the channel, click on the bell and like, but most importantly, leave a comment. Until the next video.